Hi, this is JR, and I'm going to review some basics about health. I've titled this with a couple little quick summary notes, but this is an introduction to a paradigm or a way of thinking. It's not so much about any particular detail that I'm going to share. I don't have in mind to share a lot of my personal experience. This is just how I think about health and how I invite you to think about health, and that's basically it. So what I put first is be conservative, be a skeptic, and respect life. And when I say be conservative, when I say all of that, I don't mean be resigned to what's conventional or familiar. In fact, I mean rather the opposite. Be open, but be skeptical of what's familiar and what you presume to be true. Just as an experiment, why not be skeptical about the things you already presume to be true? What if some of your presumptions are inaccurate? So why not be open or skeptical about your existing presumptions, and then be conservative. I'll say more what I mean about that, but be conservative in terms of just because one person says something, or because it's popular, or because it's got a lot of publicity in schools, in mainstream media, that doesn't mean something's accurate or the most valuable to you. If somebody's going out of their way to publicize it to you, it probably means it's valuable to them, for the audience, the targets of the publicity, to believe those things, to be attentive to those issues, to practice the suggested practices. This is not a presentation where I'm actually trying to get you to do a particular thing. I'm simply offering you some thoughts and inviting your feedback, and you can share this with other people. And I will make references to practices, but in general, they're practices that benefit you with no connection to any benefit to me. In terms of the results you get don't benefit me, and that's a contrast to people who are offering you a service that's going to result in them getting paid $20,000 by an insurance company or something. They have a really specific, powerful incentive to give you certain kinds of information and to direct you towards certain behaviors. I don't happen to have any of those interests in mind in this conversation. I do have, in addition to recording this video, I do have one person on the phone right here and another person to my side listening. So we may have some input from the other two folks. Anything so far?
No, nothing so far.
Okay. So, and interrupt or interject anytime you have something to offer. So I have in mind that we'll be able to break this into segments of discrete, simple contrasts, simple ideas that each of which will be easy to digest, easy to comprehend. So be conservative, be a skeptic, respect life. Those things may sound quite vague. So let's get into a little of the detail, or even not detail, but just the general background of what I mean by that. Start to increase the use of simple, ancient, well-established methods. So that's what I mean by be conservative. If you're not using ancient methods in general, or only using them a little, then you can start to use them or increase your use of them. Ancient means, I'll say more about this later, but if it's over 200 years old, over 10,000 years old, Modern would be, let's say, anything in the last 200 years. Ancient would be at least 10,000 years old. That'll be my definition for this conversation of the word ancient. Simple things would be things you can do quickly. You don't have to go to the store first. You don't need a prescription for them. You don't need to study 2 years of biochemistry to understand it. Established methods, there can be extensive research. If you have internet access, then you can go and find lots of research. If you're willing and you want to look for it, there's plenty of research on, I believe, everything I'm going to talk about. Maybe I will make some specific references to research as I go, but in general, I'm not here to convince you of a particular idea as being well established. I'm here just to present an idea to you. If it's logically, accessible to you, that's a good sign. If it's simple enough that you don't need to study it for 2 years before you try it, that's a good sign. Or even for 2 weeks, you don't need to study it much at all. So it's simple, ancient, established methods. We'll start those. We'll explore what they are. We'll increase them if we're already doing them. In contrast to starting and increasing, there's reducing and stopping. Reduce and then eventually stop complex methods. Experimental methods, new or modern methods, substances that are less than 200 years old in terms of their frequent use by humans. Lots of skepticism for those. So all of the wonderful innovations of modern biochemistry, I have quite a conservative, skeptical orientation towards that entire realm. Very, very profitable stuff. Those industries and those individuals involved in that business, it's a wonderful business, super lucrative, but we're interested in health in this conversation, not so much enriching the holders of a particular patent. So if something's patented and exclusive and not easy to access, then I'm probably a lot less interested in that than I would be in something that's widely available, has been used for thousands of years, and so on. So complex methods, again, we want to focus on things that are relatively simple, accessible, quick, inexpensive, easy, well established, not experimental, not things that need $800,000 of testing to know, what their side effects are, and are they safe for humans, and are they safe for lab rats and rabbits and cows and chickens and such. Just things that we're absolutely clear are beneficial and reasonable doses are safe, and then the dosage is established because they've been used for thousands of years, so we're not concerned about, am I using too much or too little. If you put your body in seawater for 20 minutes, most seawater you'll be okay. It's not a problem. You don't need to research it for 2 years first. You can actually go spend 20 minutes in the water and you may feel refreshed like that fast. So it's things like that. So any substance less than 200 years old, I just picked 200. Anything less than 200 years old, be conservative about putting that in contact with your skin, breathing it, and putting it in your body, like eating it or drinking it, or injecting it. So that's the basic idea. Any questions so far?
Products that have been mass marketed to create, wealth for specific people may not be the best methods when dealing with health. Is basically, to sum it up, that's what you're saying, right?
Right. Great. The most innovative methods for profiting specific groups of people are innovative methods for profiting specific groups of people. The methods for promoting health may be quite different from the methods that are really good for making a specific select group of people very, wealthy and prosperous at the in contrast to the average person, far above average. Nothing wrong with all that, but just some of the background and thoughts leading to this is evolutionary medicine. There's plenty of medicine and science behind what I'm talking about. Anthropology, just everything you can think of supports all the stuff I'm talking about, but you don't need to do a lot of research in those fields. You don't need a lot of new jargon or new terminology to understand it. You don't need to know the chemical composition of phosphoric acid or, citric acid or any of those things. Like, we're not going to get into vitamin D, any of the complexities that people are used to in their modern teachings of science and health. We're not into really all that. You don't need to know 20 different minerals. You don't need to do lab tests for 20 different things. If you want to, that's fine, but that's complex compared to simplicity. Go ahead.
But the purpose of the complexity is to keep people confused so that they'll attach to that idea, because a lot of people can't understand a lot of the complexity. So the idea of it being introduced all over our society in ads and TV shows and commercials or whatever, the more complex it is, the easier it is to control people with these ideas, these new ideas you're talking about in health, right? Is that true, don't you think?
So complex ideas are harder to understand, they're harder to duplicate, and you have to go to an expert to, be monitored in your use of really complex things. Is that responsive to your comment and question?
That makes sense. So it's kind of like with automobiles. Now they're all computerized, so you can't really even work on your own. You have to go to an expert who has the right equipment. Same thing with I guess you're saying basically the same thing with the health industry. Yeah, makes sense.
Correct. And as far as automobiles or computers and so on, it's wonderful that we can have all these complex contraptions and technologies, and I have no issue with emergency medicine, paramedic medicine, all of the tools of that industry. That's fine. That's just not what I'm focusing on here. Okay?
Okay.
So before I get into any further, of the content, I do want to note, in case, I've already made reference to this, but in case people are wondering, do I have any products to promote? In general, no. And I am happy to share things that I have purchased myself and used. So, for instance, one thing that I do recommend to people that I'm not going to talk about in this call, but just for reference, I do recommend virtually everyone to do certain things that they're not currently doing. I use and I can distribute to other people. I can sell, at what do you call it? I can retail to people an unusual form of a common substance. The typical cost is $50, and it lasts me a few months. So I don't plan to detail that any further than what I just said. But if people are interested, yes, I do have, products, even new technologies. There are things that people may be really interested in. If you came to my house or came to my office or something, I would share something with you. But that's not the focus of this call or this recording. So just want to clarify that. It's not that I have nothing that's a product that you might be interested in. I do, but that's not the focus of this. If you're interested in that, you can let me know separately. All right. So we talked about reducing and then ultimately stopping modern things, and then starting and increasing the ancient things. So what I had in mind was to go into more detail about the starting and increasing the simple, ancient, well-established methods. If there's no other interjection or no objection to that, I will proceed with that. Does that sound good that I start with the what to do?
Sounds amazing.
Okay. Sounds amazing is what you said. I didn't have you on speaker, so it's hard to hear you, but thank you. So here's some things to start or to increase. I'll just run through my list first. Close your mouth. Slow your breathing. I have in my notes, remember the paper bag. Of course, I'll have to tell you what I'm talking about in regard to the paper bag. Close your mouth. Slow your breathing. Put your feet on the ground. And I have my note here, remember lightning. I'll explain that a little more. Watch your words, or be attentive to your words. I have written here, be a skeptic. I don't know what I'm going to say exactly about that. Respect language, respect your breathing, respect your skin, and respect your diet. And those are in a particular order. If you would, could we have you take a breath and then hold your breath? That wasn't a very long hold. Do it again.
No.
I want to see if you can hold your breath for 7 or 8 minutes. Because I just want to establish that breathing might be more important than diet. So I'm going to talk about diet and I'm going to talk about nutrition. But I just want to get that context of, people get all confused and complexity of, what about, blah, blah, blah. Whole lot of benefit can come from just focusing on improving and stabilizing the breath. Respect your breathing, respect your skin, and then respect your diet. In general, in regard to diet, I recommend people eat more natural or more healthy things. You could say more healthy, more natural, less processed, more ancient, less new, experimental, innovative, marketed, less packaged, less marketed, less processed, all that. As far as the actual macronutrients, I would say more fat and less carbs, less sweets, less junk food, what we know as junk food. So more fat, less carbs, also less grains, especially the grain oils. I don't know how much depth I'll get into this, but I also have more raw and less cooked. And raw, in my world, includes fermented and, a variety of, meaning uncooked. So those are some basic contrasts in regard to diet. How many digestive systems on this planet are designed to process cooked foods? How many digestive systems on this planet are designed to process cooked foods? 0. It's that simple. Now, then the next issue is, but what about all these things that I eat that are cooked? Well, if they're things that you wouldn't eat if they were raw, then they're probably not what humans evolved to eat. If you've got to cook them, and if humans have only been eating them for 50,000 years or 200 years, then they're not the appropriate foundation for your diet. If you eat a little bit of it as an experiment, okay, but keep in mind that's an experiment. It's only been around, a few thousand years or whatever. So, any questions so far?
So even like beef hearts, if you were to get those, you're better off eating them raw. Is that what you're saying? Something like that.
So, thanks for your question. if you get high quality, good source beef hearts, that's an important factor. If you eat them lightly cooked or raw, it is predictable that you or a cat or any creature would be able to assimilate those proteins better, or fats or whatever it is in that organ. In the case of a heart, typically the digestive process is going to work better for raw things or marinated things that haven't been cooked. They've been pre-digested by the lemon juice or by the raw apple cider vinegar. Things that have fermented. In some cases, alcohol is produced from fermenting fruits typically. All the fermentation processes are natural. So fermentation isn't something that humans invented. Pasteurization, humans invented. But pasteurization is really just heating something, so that's not that, amazing of a thing. But pasteurization prevents fermentation and so forth. It ends the nutritional value of substances. So if they're cooked, in the case of pasteurization, if you heat a dairy product to the point that mold and bacteria and so on can't do anything with it, then you've now rendered it almost nutritionally, neutral or useless. So Daniel mentioned beef heart in particular. We eat cooked organs in pate or in soups. So I'm not against eating things cooked, but if you want the most nutritional value of it, a small amount of organ meat from a high quality source has a lot of nutrients, and it can spark a immune system response. For people who have a lot of toxicity in their system already, which is a lot of people, if you have a small amount of a really nutrient dense food, you can produce immune system activity, like vomiting, like diarrhea. So those are things to be aware of, that you may want to use them in moderation, because if you have them raw, they're going to be really potent. So have small amounts. Start conservatively. So comments or questions? Go ahead.
Well, just I wonder, how do I really figure out what is a good source and what might not be a good source? I mean, what would be a good way to do that?
So things that have been around 10,000 years, that's my default answer. If it's wild in a healthy, natural environment, that's pretty safe. Things from the ocean in general tend to be safe, but then you've got certain waters that we have, if you were to research it, you could find certain areas, certain rivers, certain bays are known for being more polluted. Organically raised, grass-fed cattle, we would expect to have higher quality nutrition than conventionally raised, antibiotic, hormone, medicated, soy-fed beef. So grass is the natural, traditional food for a cow, not corn or soy and so on. So does that help to clarify?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So close your mouth. The basic idea there is that if we imagine someone with an open mouth, what do we associate? So look for a second, if you would. What do you associate with someone with their mouth hanging open all the time? What is that? What is an adjective that goes with that expression? Anything?
What I meant that, if you're expressing all the time, but you just mean with your mouth open, not necessarily expressing anything?
Correct. So if I have my mouth open just like half an inch or whatever, it's just open. I'm breathing through my mouth, and I have my mouth kind of drooping. How does that look on someone's face? Can you? Okay, he said I don't know. So you can see me now, but doesn't it look tired? Doesn't it look,
Yeah, tired.
okay, tired. You could say, like, foolish or, drowsy, dumb. There's kind of a range between lack of alertness, drowsy, tired. These all go together. Lack of energy, maybe lazy. That might be a little extra interpretation there, but lazy, stupid, dumb, words like that. That's what we associate with somebody with their mouth hanging open. They don't get as much oxygen to their brain cells in that situation. It's a actual, I'm not going to present the research on it, but it is a fact. So did you get all that?
Yes.
Okay. So that's basically it. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. Close your mouth. In regard to sleeping, of course, while you're asleep, you're not attentive to whether your mouth is open. So if you sleep with your head raised up on a pillow, if you're laying on your back and you sleep with your head raised up pretty high on a pillow where your chin comes down and it closes your mouth nicely, that's really good for having a good night's sleep where when you wake up you're well rested. And of course you may turn throughout the night. If you lay on your side, that can be quite favorable. In fact, laying on your back in general may not be great, but if you are laying on your back or you start off laying on your back, you may want to make a note to do what it takes to be able to breathe through your nose and have your mouth closed. Obviously, if somebody's congested, then you may want to clear up one of your nostrils at least, and otherwise you have to breathe through your mouth. I don't really think about that very often, but I don't get congested that much anymore. I don't, have to think about when did I get congested? Was I congested at all in the last year? I'm not, probably, but I'm not sure. But I used to be congested a lot, and we could, think, well, I want the air to pass through my nostrils. There's a lot of good reasons for this. Again, I don't plan to get into the background of it. Just if you want to research it, research it. If it's an easy choice between breathing through your mouth and breathing through your nose, generally better to breathe through your nose. You can breathe out your mouth, that doesn't matter, but breathe in through your nose. So the next thing I mentioned is slowing your breathing. One of the factors is if you breathe through your nose, there's less of a passageway, right? Your mouth is big as far as getting a lot of air in quickly. Great. If you want to get a lot of air in quickly, sure, you can breathe through your mouth. But once you've done that, if you have a moment of, really needing to catch your breath, then you can breathe slowly through your nose. You don't need a lot of volume of air. So hyperventilation is one of the things that I've recently learned to be alert to. And there's a variety of forms of hyperventilation. All forms of panic attack, all forms of asthma are variations of hyperventilation. So how familiar are you with the use of a paper bag to assist somebody who's hyperventilating?
I'm not very familiar with that at all. I mean, I guess I've seen it before, but not very often.
Okay. You?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am.
and that kind of thing.
Okay. Could you say a little bit about why you think that? Do you know why it works?
Because it increases the carbon dioxide or something like that. I don't know really.
It increases the carbon dioxide. You knew that already, or you knew that because of the last?
No,
Okay, that's common knowledge to her. Cool. I didn't know that. Daniel, I d't hear you because she was talking at the same time. Go ahead. Say again.
Oh, I'm not exactly sure if it would slow the breathing. Maybe I don't know.
Well, yeah. So you're breathing back in air that you breathed out. So that's what the use of the paper bag creates, right? It doesn't have to be a paper bag, but using a bag like that or a container, like a balloon, whatever, you're breathing back in air that you just breathed out. So you're breathing in air that has a higher carbon dioxide level, and your body and a lower percentage of oxygen. So your body doesn't flood itself with oxygen as quickly. You actually increase the amount of carbon dioxide in your blood, in your lungs, in your etc. through hyperventilating, which helps. So the mechanism of how it helps and why it helps, I don't want to get into, but oddly enough, it increases your oxygen levels that actually get from your blood into your cells, like your brain cells, by increasing the carbon dioxide level in your blood. So that's it. Slow your breathing down. Remember the paper bag. If someone's hyperventilating, breathing quickly and breathing a lot doesn't help. It makes it worse. It's actually better to slow the breathing down. So asthma attacks, there's really a long list of neurological issues, panic, anxiety, all sorts of things that basically slow down the breathing and you don't have that issue anymore. If you slow down the breathing for a moment, you can interrupt it. If you slow down the breathing in general, including while sleeping and so on, then you really get, no more reactivity, no more danger, no more risk. So somebody who's asthmatic, if they raise their carbon dioxide levels in their blood by any way, then they're no longer asthmatic. What asthmatic basically means is your carbon dioxide levels in your blood are too low. That's it. Any questions or comments?
Meditation and how we shift the awareness or our focus to the breathing as far as closing our mouth, slowing down the breathing, and how that can make us more aware, just more, I guess more aware is the word. Like you said, the more oxygen that goes to the brain, the more, alert we are. So I think that, that is one of the things with meditation. It is to focus on the breathing, to focus on, slower breaths, and also to keep the mouth closed and breathe through the nose. I think sometimes we have to focus on that, especially maybe in moments where, we find ourselves a little elevated,
Stressed, right. Or excited, right.
Yeah.
So, to slow the breathing down tends to produce calm, alertness, the opposite of having the mouth open, right? People will, not only will your experience of others change, but people's experience of you will change if you close your mouth and you slow your breathing down. Maybe listen more, talk less, be less quick to speak. Increase your alertness, be more relaxed, be more calm, less reactive, less in a fight or flight kind of a response. There are times when a fight or flight response is extremely valuable, but most conversations, it's not that, most conversations I've been in, fight or flight wasn't important. In most casual conversations I have in everyday life, they're not life or death situations or anything close to that. So with regard to meditation, as a transition, what is the classic what's the classic position that someone will be in while they're meditating?